Steve, I'll start with you. If you could sit him down one-on-one, considering everything that's happened over the past year and a half and everything that faces this conference on and off the field and NIL and everything else, whatever interests you and whatever you feel is compelling, what would you really like to hear out of him?
I think you could come up with a list of 100 questions for Kevin Warren. Are you beginning with, are you regretting the fact you took this job? I think that'd be kind of the first one out of the box. When you were being pilloried from, post to post last year, did you regret that you took this job and put yourself out there for this type of ridicule and abuse? And how difficult was that stretch? And why did you unilaterally make this decision, it seemed, to cancel football only to relent and go back on it with some kind of halfway type season that didn't really seem to serve anybody's best interests? And beyond that, I think that if anybody really wants to put his feet to the fire, the email that came out with President Johnson from Ohio State and her conversation with Gene Smith, that she had communication with Kevin Warren, and he questioned the authenticity of the reaction of the Ohio State parents to not having the season, whether they were truly genuine in their feelings about that. I don't know who the hell he thinks he is to question somebody's motives or thoughts. And I think that that's one, if somebody really wanted to put his feet to the fire, that came out in a FOIA request. Ohio State provided that to the media, that she had said that in an email to Gene Smith or a text or some type of a conversation, that he was questioning the motives of the parents of the Ohio State players who only had the best interests of their kids at heart. So that to me is one that's going to be hard to walk back. And not only that, he's the parent of a college athlete. I am just dumbfounded that he, in some type of communication with President Johnson, made some kind of assertion that the Ohio State parents were being disingenuous with their reaction to wanting to play football and wanting to see their kids have their season that they've trained for over, their entire lives. And a lot of them, their entire professional life kind of depended upon it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Very disappointing when you hear and see things like that of somebody who's supposed to be in a leadership position. And, as I said, that's probably about 7 or 8 questions right there that I would start with. But I could come up with another 60 or 70 probably pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to ask the direct questions or whatnot, but I would like one interview to turn into a second one at some point, so I probably wouldn't go right in on him. I'm only a tough guy on here. I'm really just, very, very passive normally, but I probably would ask him for a self-evaluation. Your year plus one in or whatnot. How would you evaluate the job that you've done? I mean, what decisions, what things have you done? Would you sit there and say would be the greatest accomplishments of the Warren regime in the Big Ten, and what would you like to have handled differently? And just kind of let it go from there, and then be able to follow up, as I just had a light go out, follow up from that and see where it goes, because, he's somebody who hasn't done much media except with a selected few national media types.
Sympathetic.
So I certainly don't want to come right in adversarial, but, open the door, get him talking, and then really be able to kind of, see what his view is about how he feels that he's done, because I think you could learn a lot there. Certainly Ohio State fans, certainly most Big Ten football fans were not in favor with the way that COVID was handled in terms of the season. This will not be revisited. Okay, this will be revisited. We're starting the season late, so on and so forth. But, I think his answer might give us a lot of insight as to how he grades himself.
Yeah, and the key to asking questions is you want to ask questions that get answers. So that narrows the questions way down to Kevin Warren, because you're only, he's not going to answer everything you ask, or you have to ask the right way. And I'm with Kevin. I would be like, what what did you do right last year? What do you think you did wrong? Looking in just retrospect. And another question would be, why did you cancel, or why was the season canceled when it was, rather than just being a little bit more patient? Another question would be, do you regret canceling that or scrapping that August 5th schedule and not just playing that? Would that schedule have been better for the conference than what was eventually then set forth? So, stuff like that, where you're not throwing him under the bus, you're allowing him to explain himself in ways that maybe he didn't last year, and without, and you just let him use his own words to tell you why he made the wrong choices, or why those wrong choices happened, or why he was part of making them, and just let him explain himself, and without why did you do this or why did you do that? Just ask him. I'm asking him your thoughts on different aspects of last year, and if he can't look back on it and see areas that he could have done things better, then the Big Ten is in trouble. So you better look back on things you've done and find ways to improve. We all have to, and we're not running the entire Big Ten. I mean, and then something that would never be asked or never be answered for sure is, how do you live this down? Because look at I've said this before somewhere else, look at all of the great things Jim Delaney has done for the Big Ten, starting the Big Ten Network and just bringing them millions and millions. He's still laughed at for legends and leaders. So he can't live that down. How in the world is Kevin Warren going to live this down when all he can do is keep making the Big Ten a bunch of money, and this is still what he'll always be remembered for?
You build a million bridges, but you have one legends and leaders, and that's what you're remembered for. Mm-hmm. I know that saying doesn't quite go that way, but at any rate, my one thought on this is he would do well to channel his inner Jim Delaney and go back and watch some of his previous Big Ten Media Day appearances, because if there's a 30-minute window, what Jim Delaney was the absolute master of was spending 20 minutes talking about everything under the sun connected with the Big Ten Conference. And there's plenty of stuff out there like name, image, and likeness, the future of the NCAA, the playoff with 12 teams and his thoughts on that and their input on that, what happened last year, the COVID protocols that they're still going to endure this year. They're great television partners. What the Big Ten Network means to the world. I mean, you could fill about 19 and a half minutes of filibuster with that, and then have your PR director find your 4 or 5 very sympathetic people that they turned to last year to shield him from rocks and debris. And they got one-on-ones, the Thamels and the 40s and the Dodds and the Arbachs and those people all got their little one-on-one, that because they knew the Chicago Tribune got one, maybe Teddy Greenstein, even though he doesn't work there anymore. He works for a gambling site now, I guess. But, they really went out of their way to protect that guy last year when the proverbial poop hit the fan, and he was insulated and got softball questions only as John Browdy stood over Tony Perez's shoulder, and Marge Schott had been suspended, and it was baseball questions only. Steve Snap standing over somebody's shoulder. Football questions only whenever stuff was going down at Ohio State with the NCAA. So, yeah, it sure will have a lot of that type stuff.